World War II, humanity's darkest nightmare. 100 powerful historical photos are about to be revealed. Drop a one if you're ready to watch this video all the way through with me. In 1939, Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers roared over Warsaw, their sirens screaming as they dropped death from the sky and tore apart a city still breathing. On November 18, 1941, dusty old Matilda tanks rumbled out of Tobruk's perimeter, carrying more than armor. They rolled with hope into the North African desert. That atomic cloud over Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, wasn't just devastation. It was a frozen scream, a brutal warning that silenced the world for generations. In the frozen winter of Stalingrad, 1942, Red Army soldiers in white camouflage hunched over to carry the wounded, silently making their way past charred frames and shattered bricks. Clinging to rubble, comrades at my back, we raised the Soviet flag over Berlin. The Reichstag fell, the guns went silent, and Europe's war came to an end in 1945. As USS Pennsylvania led the fleet into Lingayen Gulf, Philippines, the waves cleared the path for landings, and in 1945, this moment marked the Pacific's decisive turning point. The League of Nations convened in Geneva with hopes of preserving peace, yet within only a few years, 1930 became remembered as the prelude to Europe's spiral back into war. In 1933, before tens of thousands cheering in Nuremberg, Hitler raised his hand in salute, marking the moment the world began spiraling into dictatorship and war. As Mussolini inspected his troops with pride, few realized during the 1935 Italo-Ethiopian War that this ambition would eventually drag Italy into crushing defeat in World War II. Japanese soldiers marched through ruins, leaving Shanghai bleeding. The haunting images of 1937 foreshadowed the spreading darkness that would soon engulf Asia throughout World War II. Before signing the Munich Agreement in September 1938, a photo of Chamberlain, Daladier, Hitler, Mussolini, and Ciano captured the illusion that peace had somehow been preserved. In August 1939, inside the Kremlin in Moscow, Stalin shook hands with Ribbentrop, and the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact secretly divided Eastern Europe on the eve of World War II. A German propaganda photo staged troops dismantling a Polish border gate at Sopot. In September 1939, that symbolic act marked the beginning of Europe's devastating invasion. The frozen Karelian Isthmus in March 1940 marked the end of the Winter War, where Soviet forces paid in blood for every inch of contested ground. The frozen Karelian Isthmus in March 1940 marked the end of the Winter War, where Soviet forces paid in blood for every inch of contested ground. Drop a 1 if you liked this video, or a 0 if you found it boring. The animated map of Europe from 1939 to 1945 reveals shifting front lines, where red, green, and blue colors morphed with each battle, illustrating the continent's turbulent wartime transformations. Russians evacuated shattered homes during the siege of Leningrad. In December 1942, they endured starvation, bombardment, and the bone-chilling cold of one of history's harshest winters. As Japanese troops entered Hong Kong in December 1941, the British colony fell swiftly, ushering in years of hardship under occupation that would scar the city for nearly 4 years. The USS Arizona burned fiercely at Pearl Harbor. In December 1941, Japan's sudden strike turned the battleship into a steel tomb and ignited America's direct war with Japan. The map of Japan's advance by mid-1942 shows the empire stretching from Manchuria to Southeast Asia, creating a terrifying stranglehold across the Pacific region. At Stalingrad in February 1943, Soviet soldiers counterattacked house by house, turning the city on the Volga into a symbol of resilience and the war's decisive turning point. US 8th Air Force B-17 Flying Fortresses bombed the Focke-Wulf factory in Germany. In October 1943, Europe's skies blazed with the fury of American strategic bombing. During the Gilbert and Marshall Islands campaign in 1943, U.S. Navy SBD-5 scout planes patrolled above USS Washington and USS Lexington, shielding the fleet from surprise air attacks. In July 1943, Soviet T-34 tanks and infantry counterattacked at Kursk, staging history's largest tank battle and halting the Wehrmacht's desperate bid for Eastern dominance. U.S. troops stormed Omaha Beach during the Normandy invasion. In June 1944, waves of soldiers and artillery opened the path to Europe's liberation from Nazi tyranny. When Douglas MacArthur returned to the Philippines in October 1944 at Leyte, he fulfilled his promise and launched a massive campaign that reshaped the Pacific War. If this video opened your eyes about the war, leave a 1. Can you help us correct any wrong information in the comments? Aboard USS Missouri in September 1945, Japanese Foreign Minister Shigemitsu signed the Instrument of Surrender, closing World War II and opening a new chapter in world history. At the Nuremberg trials of 1945 to 1946, Nazi leaders faced justice. It was humanity's first attempt to prosecute crimes against humanity before an international court. After the war, Central Europe's borders shifted dramatically. New lines emerged with the Communist Eastern Bloc, signaling the dawn of the Iron Curtain across the continent. The World War II casualties chart shows tens of millions lost across Europe, Asia, and the Pacific, making the conflict humanity's most devastating catastrophe in recorded history. In December 1937, during the Nanjing Massacre, thousands of Chinese civilians were slaughtered. Bodies piled in the streets became haunting evidence of war's unrestrained brutality. At Bergen-Belsen in 1945, SS guards carried corpses to mass graves, exposing to the world the horrific cruelty of the Nazi concentration camp system. The ID photo of Polish girl Czesława Kwoka at Auschwitz reminds us that about 230,000 children were imprisoned, forced into labor, and subjected to experiments by the Nazis. In Palmyra Forest in 1940, blindfolded Polish civilians stood moments before execution, embodying the terror Nazi Germany inflicted across its occupied territories. A Soviet partisan was hanged by German troops. A 1995 report revealed 13.7 million Soviet civilians perished, 20% of the population in occupied territories. The GDP ratio chart shows Allies outpacing the Axis throughout the war. Industrial and financial superiority proved an invisible weapon determining the conflict's outcome. A V-2 rocket launched from Peenemünde in June 1943, showcasing Nazi Germany's destructive technology while simultaneously paving the way for the modern missile age. In July 1945 at New Mexico, the Trinity nuclear test transformed the Alamogordo Desert into the birthplace of the atomic age, forever haunting humanity with fear. On Moscow's Western Front in December 1941, Soviet forces launched a fierce counteroffensive, pushing back the Germans and proving Blitzkrieg could not conquer Russia's brutal winter. During World War II, Japan expanded across Asia and the Pacific. But after June 1942, the crushing defeat at Midway shifted momentum decisively toward the Allies. The Schwerer Gustav, Germany's colossal 80-centimeter gun, was used in 1942 to bombard Sevastopol, symbolizing both industrial might and military desperation. The Soviet T-34 tank, first introduced in 1940, transformed Europe's battlefields. By 1943, it had become a true nightmare for the Wehrmacht. Leave number 1 if you still watch this far. After 1943, Germany faced defeat on both fronts. The Red Army pressing from the east, while Western allies landed from the Mediterranean and France. At the Ardennes in December 1944, Germany launched its final Western offensive, yet the Bulge quickly collapsed under the Allied counterattack. In May 1945, Germany officially surrendered, ending the European front. Scenes of exhausted soldiers laying down arms marked the total collapse of the Third Reich. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, turning 2 cities into infernos and ending the era of conventional warfare. After the Soviet Union declared war in August 1945, Japan surrendered, marking the end of humanity's most destructive conflict in recorded history. At Monte Cassino from January to May 1944, the Allies fought 4 brutal battles to break through Germany's Gustav Line in Italy. Thanks for watching the video. What are your thoughts on World War II? Share them in the comments below, And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our next videos. See you next time.